Squad up! Boy, monsters of the gridiron, and we're coming for you. Squad up! Squad up! Squad up! Squad up! Squad up! Yeah, boy, monsters of the gridiron, and we're coming for you. Squad up! Squad up! Squad up! Squad up! Squad up! Yeah.
Welcome to the Monsters of the Gridiron podcast.
And we're coming for you. Squad up, 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 squad up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Monsters of the Gridiron, featuring in the upper right-hand corner, Big Samo. Samo, show the chat some love.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. What up, squad? I see a few in the building already. I see Jason, Eric Harper, Doug Van Dorn, Dobbsy34, Squeegee, what it do? Hey, we got a good one for you. J2K, my guy, what's up? Hey, man, we got a good one for y'all. We got a great guest. You guys know him. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Oh, yeah. We're going to go in and kind of cartwheel. We got old Walt Baby Love in the lower left. Holler at the chat real quick, Walt.
And it's good to see all you guys again, Eric and DVD and Dobbsy's here and Squeegee. Got the whole gang. Let's do it.
And last but not least, you know, the man of the hour who's going to probably be making weekly appearances on the show, Mr. Glynn Morgan of NBC Chicago, draft strategy extraordinaire. Let them know and let them feel you there, Glynn.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Great to be back. It's always a pleasure when I get to hang out with my guys and chat it up about football all the time, especially our Bears. It's great to see the chat. Man, I'm excited. It is right around the corner, and we got a game coming up soon, so we can see a little bit more. So let's get to it. Let's get at it. Let's talk about it.
Now, look, before we talk about this game tomorrow between the Chicago Bears and the Buffalo Bills, where Caleb will be making his first start of the preseason, hey, what did y'all think about the Hard Knocks episode? Because everybody was talking about, like, look, it was going to be the bomb. Me, I got mixed reviews, but before I really just dig deep and give my review as a documentary critic, you know, I want to get some feedback from y'all as to, and I'm talking about as soon as it came on, when I heard do, 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 I'm like, hold up, man, we got the Bulls in the house. We got in position. And look, I get the parable of what they're saying by doing that. You're starting lineup for the Chicago Bears. What? Like, come on, like, look, because we old heads, we love Jordan, and we know what Jordan did for the city. We know what Jordan did for the game. But when I'm like, look, let's give Caleb my personal opinion, let's give Caleb his own identity. Because I know they've been soul searching for the next big star since Michael Jordan. But look, that y'all know I'm like the way I deep dive, y'all know I'm very analytical and I look at the abstract, the concrete. But from y'all viewpoint, Sam, we're gonna start with you. How did you view like the opening line of Hard Knocks?
Ooh, that means the pressure is on. It meant to me that the NFL has high expectations for Caleb and the Chicago Bears. That's what it meant to me, man. You start out with that music, man. That was a dynasty that we saw there. When we hear that, we think of that dynasty, the big three, you know, with Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman and Horace Grant before that. You know, that's what we think about here in Chicago. So it just said to me that the pressure is on from the NFL and from, you know, the city of Chicago right now. You know, it's just that, hey, everyone has high expectations for this team and especially high expectations for Caleb Williams.
Glenn,
what about you?
I hear what you're saying, Will. And you know, I guess in one way I can, taking that bent, I can be like, hey, two things. One, let's have Caleb has this Bears, this iteration of the Bears. Let's have their own thing. Let's not bite off of something else. And the other thing, kind of what Samuel was saying, what it does is it instantly puts a lot of pressure because you think dynastic. You think that you're going to be winning championships. Is that what you're saying? And I can understand it as Bear fans. Something about Chicago, and we can all attest to this. As big a city as it is, as worldwide, as global a city as it is also a very provincial city. Neighborhoods are special. Neighborhoods, if you want to talk cynically, are somewhat segregated, but they're also very special because it's your neighborhood and you understand what it is. In Chicago, as big a city as it is, there's a lot of closeness and you run across some of the same people. It's got Midwestern values, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that being said, you can maybe be a little annoyed by outsiders coming in, NFL, HBO and whatnot, coming in and saying, this is how we see you. But that's being cynical. I think sometimes with Chicago fans, we get a little too personal. For me, I look at it as this is how the world sees us at the moment. But by the time this is over with, they're going to see us in a different light, something that we've never shown the NFL in terms of the type of closeness that you'll be able to get, that you'll be able to have with this organization. Basically, everything has been outside. The Bears '85 still resonate with everybody, but that's on the outside looking in. It's a fun, you understand the championships is a fun crew, but you don't know about what's happening inside Hallis Hall. You don't know about the players personally. You don't understand what this new culture is. You don't understand what it's like to live in Chicago. The great thing about this Hard Knocks, I think what they'll be able to do and what they probably did a little bit and could have done even more so last year with the Jets is you get to see the city. Because if nothing else, the Bears and the city are intertwined. It represents and reflects so much about who we are as a people. Hard hat, deal with the elements, take no BS from people, but love what you do, love who you are, and love and represent the city well. We're all about that. We've been about that about our superstars. So this is an opportunity for HBO to do it right. It's just the first episode, so I'm not, I understand this is the outside perspective coming in, but as you start to episode after episode, you get closer and closer. You can see aspects of the city and how the people talk. And really what I'd like for them to do is talk to real people on the street, find some real people, not the celebrities, and so what have you. Go to a barbershop, go to a club, a pub, something like that. Be at a Sox game. Well, no one's there, but be at a game where the people are and talk to the people, because that's how you get that feel. And I'll say this to encapsulate it all is that's what that whole Justin Caleb thing was about. It became such a civil war because we care so much. The intensity about our sports, but specifically the Bears, is so intense. It's so intense that if you don't know what you're talking about, don't come in here talking. And so this is an opportunity for HBO to get it right. So I don't think Hard Knocks has it just yet, but they're learning. And I think they're very flexible, because keep in mind, guys, this is, I don't know how many Hard Knocks this is, but they've gone to, let's say, no less than 10 cities, maybe no more than 20 cities. And everyone's a little bit different. You come into an original team, you come into one of the greatest cities on this planet, and you come into a very historic venue, not just as a city, but also as a sports city.
Oh, that was a great that was a great depiction, Glynn, of what a lot don't really know about the city, about the culture, about the blue collar atmosphere, and how the Chicago Bears win, lose, or draw. That's the heartbeat of the sports world in Chicago.
Yeah.
Walt, I know you chomping at the bit, Walt. Like, what did you think from the opening scene of Hard Knocks?
I understand where they were going with it. They're looking to kind of pay homage to the sports history of Chicago, bringing in the the Bulls. The only thing I really didn't like about the opener was the voiceover during the credit run. It felt like an afterthought, personally, and you could barely hear what they were saying anyways. Just leave it out.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm with you. The montage could have just said enough of it. So, like, starting off with John Facenda was fine, but after that, just let the rest of the video and everything else speak for itself. I feel you on that one, Walt.
Exactly.
And like Glynn said, they really, I hope throughout this series, need to encapsulate and capture, just like you said, the neighborhood barbershop. Like, I did like the little short segment of when a lot of the players was on the boat. You can see the fans up there just, excited. Those are the individuals that I really want some focus to go on to give their insight about what what does the organization do as far as giving people hope? Because when I talk to people, the reason when people were going to the game and they was getting their teeth kicked in, it was because of Justin, but it still gave them hope and excitement and entertainment. Now we thinking about wins. So now when you look at the culture being established, and we're gonna transition to the next talking point with the Matt Eberflus makeover and how his transformation. Do you all think that transformation will equate to a more deeper, motivated, disciplined squad that now gets it in the sense of we can take everything that we're learning from Coach Flus, when he made the change and adjustment, we need to see that. Like when he made that change and adjustment with his beard, that's the type of change and adjustment we need to see in those games last year that we lost. Mm-hmm. So I equate that. So do you all foresee, because I foresee us having a great culture right now, but do you all foresee that the change in Flus, because he's speaking with more confidence, he's more succinct at the mic, he doesn't seem lost. I don't know, he might have hired a PR guy in the offseason, but I'm just noticing a lot of subtle things about Flus that I'm liking so far this offseason. Samo, like what do you think based off what you've observed early on in training camp and offseason?
And what coach used to say, look good, you feel good, you're gonna play good. And I think that in Flus's case, he's gonna coach good. Hopefully, he's doing, like you say, he's doing a lot better right now, man. And I was surprised to see that they focused so much on Matt Eberflus in that first episode, man. We learned a lot about him and his personality, his new look. I think that is a topic of conversation here around the city amongst Bears fans, man. And like Glynn said, man, the city is divided on a lot of different things, whether it be north side, south side, Sox, Cubs, red, blue, and all of that, everything else in between. But the Bears are what bring us together, man, as a city, man. So it's good to see, Flus, looking more like an NFL coach and sounding more like an NFL coach, man. And it just gets you excited, man, to see that everything around him is starting to align.
Yeah, Walt, what about you?
I mean, I didn't mind Matt Eberflus last year. Didn't really bother me. I mean, I'm not really digging the whole coif hair look. The beard I'm fine with. But so I mean, someone's got to ask, like, is he going through some sort of midlife crisis maybe too? I know his wife brought it up in the episode.
She put him through that, man. She put him through that.
I mean, do I call him Matt Eberflus or Holly Flus at this point? He's being
kind
of LA.
No, Matty E, baby. Call him Matty E. That's what you call him.
There we
Matty
go.
E. Or the ebb is flowing. No, that's a whole bad joke. Anyway, yeah, Eberflus. You know what we need to see? We need to see that dude that was playing at Toledo. That dude who was tackling people and going, after tackling. That's the dude that it's like, wait, hold on, like, for real? That was him in college? Like, I would expect him to maybe be like a tight end or, a wide receiver maybe, or maybe, a third string quarterback. So this dude was out there with the shoulder pads up where his ears are, making tackles out there on the field and getting up looking like a monster out there. It's like, okay, where is that energy? And I think, again, to the point, these are things that we don't see. We're not there in the practice. We're not there at the practices. We're not there in the locker room. The players have pretty much always said that, he's relatable. He's kind of a player's coach in that respect. Mm-hmm. So, and seeing him being a former player, and seeing how energetic he was on the field, you can understand that that he gets what the players are going through, so to speak. It doesn't bother me so much. I mean, that's fine. He's growing into the role. He was never been a head coach. He's always been a coordinator. He's always been just the coach, the guy behind the scenes. He was the guy next to the guy that was next to the guy. So now he has to be the guy, and you grow into that. And for his sake, and for that really nice home that he has, he has a little more opportunity, a little more time to succeed as a head coach, so that he can stay and let that value of that place grow up a little bit more. Right. But I think what we did see with him is that he is who he is. He's authentically himself. The hair and the beard, really hasn't changed his demeanor, hasn't changed his approach. He still seems to speak to the players the same way. They still seem to react and relate to him the same ways we saw. And we saw it more so last year, the second half of last season. There was a comfort level. And there's a thing. Here's the thing. You are who you are, and you're always who you need to be authentic. That's one thing. Then there's being comfortable in the role that you have, in this case, professionally. And I thought we saw him grow into that comfortability last year. And now his exterior is just reinforcing that. And so the people on the outside are just kind of seeing it like, oh, okay, so like, what's up, dude? Like, this you? Like, this always you be? No, it's this. My wife likes the beard, but I'm just being me. And hopefully, as this show goes on, and because again, it's real time, so to speak. What I mean by that is this is not 6 months ago. They're doing these shows week to week. We even saw in this first episode, the Hall of Fame game. I thought we might not see that until the second episode. Hall of Fame game was like, 5 days before this went on air, and they edited it in very well. So There are things that this crew, and it's an experienced crew. This is not their first Hard Knocks. It's our first Hard Knocks. It's not their first Hard Knocks. There are going to be things that that hopefully from their experiences, they realize that we have a certain game plan going into a show, but leave the flexibility to allow the fluidity of the situation to tell its own story, and then be adaptable enough, but also be conscious and conscientious enough to grab onto that story, treat it respectfully, but still let the story tell the story, not for them to create the narrative. And I think that's what I expect to have happen. And I'll be shocked if it doesn't happen that way, because again, this is not Hard Knocks' first rodeo.
And once again, Glenn, you're spot on in your assessment and your observation. I think this first one really was just kind of like to ease us in. Like J2K said, hell, 50% of it was about Simone Biles, which again is good. Because
yeah, that was good.
Simone Biles, she's a part of the family. Like, let's be honest. Right. Jonathan Owens, I love Jonathan Owens, but guess what? Simone Biles, she's gonna bring a whole different set of eyeballs to the Chicago Bears, which is going to
our Taylor Swift, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's why I say we get to have the opportunity to benefit from the Simone Biles effect, similar to what Kansas City did with the Kansas City Chiefs effect. So again, that might have been by design by Hard Knocks. Okay, This first one, let's put emphasis because we're in the middle of the Olympics, but she's tied to the Bears through her husband. So at the end of the day, the overall objective, bottom line, increase eyeballs, which in the grand scheme of things, increase what? The revenue, the gross revenue, which will be beneficial for the Bears organization with a whole new set of eyeballs.
New fans. New fans.
Yeah.
New fans. Think about this. We're in year 3, guys. And when I talk to a lot of fans and a lot of people, they're like, man, you know what? We really don't know Matt Eberflus. We really don't know his family. So the fact that they put the eyeballs on his family and him, like you said, nice crib when they had the little event. I did like that part because, okay, I know we wanted to get the insight, Hallis Hall with the Bears organization, but it's also good to get the, because for the most part, we got a strong understanding of who Ryan Poles is, who Kevin Warren is. But now the fact that they did put those eyeballs on Matt Eberflus and give us some insight, and even, the interview with Nick Saban, when they was going over, Nick Saban came in talking about the number one thing that has really impacted quarterbacks is unrealistic expectation. And then this week I saw a tweet from Dan Witterer saying he doesn't think that the fans will be ready for the roller coaster with Caleb. But at the end of the fact, you all are the ones, media in Chicago, that created the unrealistic expectations. And when I say media, I'm talking more so the old style, old head media, from Sun Times and a few, primarily, a couple from ESPN 1000, guys from The Score, the Elder Statesman, people that created this expectation of, okay, can he be like CJ Stroud? On paper, it could happen, but it all depends on the offensive line. And it's so many intricacies, as we've seen, so many nuances that have to be considered before you start having these unrealistic expectations on this kid. And now you throw him under the bus just like you did Justin. So I'm paying attention not to the fan base, because I think we all are smart enough to know that there's a transition period coming from USC to the NFL. But the media, and we all know which ones, they are the ones that have unrealistic expectations, because are you seriously concerned about the development of Caleb in the Bears? Or are you more concerned about talking points that's going to lead to more viewership and clicks and clout to drive your ratings? So from that, Walt, let's start with you. What is your viewpoint of that based on what some of the media guys are saying as to the expectations of success for Caleb?
Well, I think the moment we drafted him at number 1, there was always that thought in the back of my mind: someone's always going to compare you to somebody else, and whoever the best player is, that's who you're going to be instantly compared to, whether you want to or not. It's just an unfortunate thing, we're going to have to deal with it. But like you said, well, the fans know the truth, and they know what they can expect from a player, because more often than not, a lot of these guys that are sitting here like you and I, we've done more research on these players than the talking heads in the media. So we do have that going for us. But Nick Saban wasn't wrong. The expectations are going to crush. They can either crush you or they can make you better. It depends on the person themselves, right? Can they handle those expectations, turn them into a fire that can they can stoke inside themselves and make them a better player? We'll see tomorrow if he's able to do that.
Tomorrow we will see, because I want to see who the initial starting offensive line. That at this point, that's the only thing I'm focused on, and we'll talk about the extension for DJ Moore and what that means in our next segment, because that should free up a lot of cap. I think we're about 21 million now to be able to make a move either on the offensive side or defensive line in the trenches. But Samo, what's your take? Because like I said, we've talked about this, and on paper, I think we all know that we can do some damage, but it depends on two things. It depends on the offensive line. And it depends on Caleb's quick acceleration of grasping the concepts and not trying to play hero ball either.
Absolutely, man. And it shouldn't all fall on Caleb, man. And that's what coaching is going to have to make sure, that we don't put all of this pressure on Caleb. But if there's anyone who's equipped to handle the expectations, I think it's Caleb Williams, man. I think he's probably the most NFL ready quarterback to come into the NFL, who's able to handle the expectations and all the hype, just because of where he's come from and everything that he's experienced before. Man, he won the Heisman not last year but 2 years ago. So, and he had a lot of expectations going into last season. And I think at some point during the season last year, he felt that a little bit. And we saw, that raw emotion that he felt on the field when we saw him climbing to the stands with his mother, man. But I think that, that's a learning moment for him too. That made him better equipped for this moment right here. And I think that, he's going to have to rise to the occasion, and it's going to be on the coaching staff to make sure that they help him, lean on that defense. That's what I think. Like, man, the defense should be the strength of the team right now. Don't ask him to do too much to have to save the team to go out there and win every game with his arm, allow the weapons around him to, help him to be successful and help the offense to be successful. That's all it's about, man. I think that, the way that this thing is built around him, it's built to insulate him a little bit. But I feel you with the offensive line. Like, that's where it gets a little scary for me. But we'll get there. We'll get there and talk about that in a second.
Glynn, talk to me. What you saying and what you think about that?
I'm apoplectic. A lot of it kind of goes to, and I know it's going to sound like I'm bringing up old arguments, and maybe I am, but it's not to have an argument. It's kind of like, and it's not to say, I told you so, nothing like that. It's more so, I'm saying I'm bringing this out of the same concern I had months ago, that's coming to fruition to some degree right now, and that's depth issue. On the offensive line, we just saw the Canadian Eagle go down. Now I wasn't expecting him to come in and start, obviously, but it's depth, and all that time that he could have used to become a better pro is going to be delayed however long it takes his injury and then some. Kieran came in injured. He started off a little bit slow, So these are young guys. They're supposed to be depth, people, and they're not there to provide it at this point. Obviously, we got issues with Davis on the offensive line. We've already had Jenkins with some soft tissue stuff already. And we already know that he's going to be. It's not a matter of if, but just when. You was hoping it's not like a long time. So these are concerns. And you're talking about the interior of your offensive line, which is the quickest way to get to your quarterback. A quarterback who already has shown a penchant in his career to be someone who wants to make the big play, that will move out the pocket, granted, not just to run, but to try to make a big play happen. But again, you expose yourself. We're talking about a guy who sometimes, and Caleb I'm talking about, sometimes who, when he does his escape maneuverabilities type stuff, he kind of goes in semicircles. He has to be careful with that because he may run right back into a sack and then really expose himself worse than if he would just run upfield and slide down. And it's a rookie quarterback who has to acclimate to the pros. So, yeah, these are concerns. And I don't know how much we'll really get to see this week or next week, or how much he'll even really play. So, overall, you gotta build up the depth. I mean, it was an issue, and I thought with more draft picks that you could have a possibility to get more younger players, double up in certain areas, improve that interior. I still don't know who the center is going to be. I have an idea who it may be, but it's still not set. And then even if it is set, who are the guys playing behind those guys? So I mean, I know I'm always the voice of doom, and it sounds like I'm always gloomy and stuff. I am optimistic about this season, but I'm apoplectic. I'm kind of like, I'm gonna wait to see what happens next, to see not so much with the start. I mean, are we worried about the frontline starters? No, we're not. We know who DJ Moore is. We know who Keenan is. We have a good idea what Roma's going to be able to do as a third receiver, let alone if he was a number one, he'd have been nice. He's the third receiver at this point. So you got three number one type talents at receivers. Not worried about the tight end, not worried about the running back room, not worried about the defensive line as a whole. Yeah, certain aspects, but not as a whole. The linebackers are solid, and the secondary, I've been in love with the secondary for about 2 years now. So I'm not concerned about those things. I am concerned about the depth. I'm concerned about a rookie quarterback who has to be able to be coachable and flexible. I think to everyone's point, especially what you and Samuel and Walt were saying, is that coming into the profession, because he is an NIL product, so to speak, him and to some extent Bryce Young was as well too, but Caleb even more so. He embraces it. He doesn't shy away from the lights. Now he has to learn how to deal when the lights aren't bright, when they're darker, and he has to be that light. That's where we really get to see. That's how you get the true measure of someone's ability to handle the adversity. He didn't do so well last year. Some of the expectations weighed on him. I'm sure his own personal, he's very driven. I think we see that. And sometimes, you can internalize it so much and you try not to throw anybody under the bus, but it comes out in ways where you disconnect from people because you internalize it so much. They can't even relate to how pissed off or how much you're dealing with the pain and the loss, whatever. The UCLA game is another one where he didn't talk to the media and that kind of stuff. So those are things that he hopefully has learned from and realizes that this is part of the whole package. It's not just when things are good, not just when you have something to say, but when you don't want to talk, when you don't have something that you want to offer, but you're being asked to nonetheless, because you are literally the face of the franchise at this point. Yep. And it's not just you, but you got all these other people's lives in your hands to some degree in terms of your success. Eberflus being one of those people. He wants to keep that nice home. Okay, you want to keep that quaff. He needs to win. Same thing with Poles. This is a legacy pick. You don't want this to be a pick, and it turns out that we have a 7-10 season this year. The next year, we struggled a 9-8, and meanwhile, you see someone that wasn't here somewhere in a different city, maybe going 11-6, or 10-7, and with a playoff win, because structurally everything around it is in place to buoy and support the quarterback. They did a great job in offseason with Caleb, potentially, with the skill positions. That offensive line, you got to have that protection, man. So that's a long ass answer to a short ass question. But again, that's why I'm apoplectic, man. I'm just like,
You're absolutely right about that, though, Glenn. I think that Poles kind of built this thing kind of backwards, man, where he didn't focus on the trenches, man. We hear all the time, you win in the trenches, and that's the offensive line and the defensive line. And there's question marks in both areas right now, which is sad to say, coming from a GM who's a former offensive lineman himself. You know, and he's consistently going to the bargain bin, you know, and getting guys. And then we're hearing about Darnell Wright not playing well in camp this year. So it's a lot to think about, like you said. So hopefully, you know, there's a move to be made, or, you know, hopefully things just come together within this next 30 days or so before we actually have to play our first meaningful game. But like you say, man, it's scary, and it makes me nervous, and I think a lot of Bears fans are out there nervous about it too. And it's definitely a topic of conversation, and it's sad because we've been having this conversation since Jay Cutler to Justin Fields to Jay to Mitch to Justin, and now to Caleb Williams. And this is just what are we doing here?
The crazy thing is Trubisky actually had the best offensive line, you know, probably consistently than the guys you just mentioned. I mean, Cutler had a couple of seasons where the line was decent, but Trubisky had a better line than most of those guys you just mentioned, you know. So yeah, man, it's an ongoing issue. And I think somebody brought up a point in the chat, like, you keep going to the bargain bin, you know, and you keep, you know, the third round draft pick you get is injured, you know, when you get them. It's like, okay, if you have more picks, maybe you might have taken a guy in the first round who was an offensive lineman, you know, or the second round offensive lineman. And that's, again, last time I'm gonna say it on this show, I'll probably bring it up again later on, but that's where having a wealth of picks gives you a lot of not just flexibility, but margin for error, and a lot more opportunities to choose other positions and to really get at more than just, you know, position here or there, or trading away picks to acquire a talent. You know, we traded away a pick to get Keenan Allen. That's great. He's Keenan Allen. He ain't 28. You know, he's Keenan Allen. He's a Hall of Fame caliber type receiver. He's in his 30s. He's on his last year of his contract. Okay, it's nice for this year, but what are we doing after that? And it's probably going to get to what we'll, you know, with the DJ Moore contract and signing, what that may also mean. But with that fourth round pick, or whatever, I think it was the fourth round you gave up for Keenan, was there an offensive lineman that was better suited? A guard, maybe? You don't draft guards necessarily high, but you could have got a good guard in the fourth round. Maybe that interior, now you have a little more depth, or whatever the case might be. So, yeah, man, you get that free agency money, as Will mentioned out, you know, you're going to have to spend it on some players. And I know people say, well, no, wait till a couple of weeks. You know, there'll be some players that drop off. Okay, you're getting cast-offs. And granted, some of the cast-offs aren't so bad because they're cast-off because they're the affordability, not so much because of the talent. But, you know, you can't live like, it's not sustainable. You can't live like that every year, man, especially when you're trying to build. It's one thing if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you're the Ravens, you know, you're, you know, the 49ers, where you've got 90% of your team, 80% of your team in place. You're winning, and then you just need pieces to fill in that you can afford to put in, because you can weave them around talented player. We still don't have a dude on the offensive line who we're saying this is our anchor. Potentially, but who is that guy? It's not Darnell just yet. It ain't the guy on the left side. It's not our center. I mean, think about it. Back in the day, you had Olin Kreutz for a long time. You knew you had an anchor. You had someone centered right there that you can build around. Mm-hmm. Who on the offensive line are we building around? We're still disparate pieces trying to put it together. And some fans, and I understand the excitement, are like, yeah, man, 10-7, 11-6, dude, we're going to win a division. Yeah, okay, I feel your energy. And if I got a Madden team right now, those guys aren't hurt, then yes, I got a good shot to win it this year. But reality says, as you said earlier, your trenches, your offensive line, your defensive line. Defense is pretty good. I ain't worried about them. That offense, that front seven.
Scary.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I think they brought in like they're saying here in chat, Darnell has the 11th pick, should be the anchor. I think he's going to be that one day, but like you said, Glenn, he's not there at the
Yeah.
moment, unfortunately. Maybe we'll see a little more this year, but and I think you brought up earlier in your talk here that Ryan Poles is a former offensive lineman, like you said, so he would have more of an insight into drafting some of these guys. So what that tells me is he has some form of faith in Nate Davis and Tevin Jenkins and Coleman Shelton and Braxton Jones, that maybe he sees something that we don't see, given his expertise.
If
And it's
that's
just
the
something to
case,
look at.
then
I could be wrong.
if that's the case, then we should start questioning coaching, which I'm also almost ready to start questioning. We all say that Chris Morgan is this great offensive line coach. Well, who has he developed? Who can we look at and say that he's this great coach? If we haven't seen him develop any players, we're seeing regression from Braxton Jones. We're seeing regression from Darnell Wright in practice this year. Then who are we saying that he's developed to say that he's this great offensive line coach? So that's also something that's been on my mind a little bit lately. Like maybe we would have been better to move on from him and just start fresh and maybe come in with someone else who have some different teaching methods. I don't know, man, but just right now it's not going well. None of the guys can stay healthy for some reason.
That's the thing. I think that's the big thing.
And that's
being
the other.
healthy.
If that's the case too, then what are we doing in the weight room and what are we doing with nutrition? Like, we got to figure this thing out, man, because it's becoming a nuisance that's just never gone away from the Bears. This has been going on for, like I said, for almost 20 years now, with some small gaps where we've been pretty solid, So
Yeah, I mean,
but never have we been dominant.
You want to call Rusty Jones and get him back in the strength and condition?
Man, we gotta get somebody in here, man. Something has to happen. Something has to change. If we're going through if we're gonna get the same results, then something has to change.
Can't practice at Hallis Hall, man. You got to go back to Bourbonnais or back up in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
maybe that's what it is.
Hey, that's like I said. When I look at Hard Knocks, and I'm like, man, it looks good. We'll talk about DJ Moore when they made the call. Be discreet. Have old DJ come up here. Old Drew Rosenhaus, they inked the deal on a very good contract that, to me, I think it was a great deal for both parties in the sense of, I think DJ is sold that we're in win now mode. He took one of those Tom Brady contracts, if you really take a look at it, as far as not truly being like, look, I know with the production, with all these subpar quarterbacks I've had, at a minimum, I can get 30 a year. With a higher guarantee, but he still got, I think, 82 GTD, which, again, like, it was a good contract to get him locked in for 6 years. So we got DJ for 6. We got Rome for 5 at a minimum. Now, we're going to see what happened with Keenan, because I still think Keenan gets a Michael Evans type deal, like that 2-year, $52 million deal. That now the question is, because, hey, it's some great talent in that draft next year, wide receiver. Do you invest that money? Do we see if Keenan's going to stay healthy? Because, along with the line, the issues, like if Keenan goes down, then, okay, now we're back to – we're still in a decent shape, but does a Tyler Scott or a Colin Johnson step up? Because as we can see, Bayless Jones, they're really, because a lot of people say they think that they move him to running back to justify keeping him and then justify keeping 6 wide receivers, which I think DeAndre Carter would now be one of those 6. But I think they're just trying to get everybody knows at this point that Bayless Jones is an athlete. So I think they're trying to get all of that Debo-ness out of Bayless that they could potentially get. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, what are y'all seeing? Start with you, Samo.
I'm saying they trying to give Bayless an opportunity to make the team right now.
Right.
I don't know if Bayless is he's on his way out right now, and I'm hearing that he's not even returning kicks in practice the past couple days too, which is also not a good sign for Bayless Jones. But man, like you say, the DJ deal was a home run for Poles, I think, man, because he got it done early, and the cap is gonna go up, and he got him on the low right now, $27.5 million. That's That's not a lot. And then to only give up $7 million in cap space this year, so we have the opportunity to make another move. I think they have something like $21 million in cap space right now. So something has to happen. Something has to shake, man. As far as Keenan goes, man, he, like you said, Will, he has to show me first that he can be healthy, and then second that he's going to be productive in this offense with the other guys around him. I don't want him to come in and then it starts the development of our rookie and Rome Odunze either. So that's a lot to consider. And like you said, we have so many draft picks next year. Like, I don't know. And we have these holes on the offensive line. So is it going to benefit us really to go and re-sign a 31-year-old wide receiver, or should we be allocating those funds somewhere else? You know, $50 million for 2 years or $25 million a year. I don't know, man. I don't know if two $25 million receivers is going to help this team this next year. We'll see how the offensive line looks this year. If the offensive line is really good this year, then why not? Then maybe why not? So it's just we would have to see a lot happen. I would in no way go and re-sign him right now, though, man. That would just not be a smart move, I don't think. I think we need to see how the season shakes out, see how he gels with the team and in the offense, and go from there.
What you think, Glynn?
With Keenan, first off, we got to make sure that he wants to stay here. You know, he's a California kid. You know, his family's still in Cali. His heart may still be in Cali. Something may open up with a different team. May open up with the Chargers and you know, Justin Herbert and Harbaugh. He might feel that there's upside in his career there. You know, and be a presence there. They definitely are in receiver hell at this point over there in Los Angeles for the Chargers. I don't know if I want to invest that type of money in one grouping as much. I guess you could say Rome's contract is not too dissimilar than a quarterback's contract, and that Rome's contract allows you to maybe have two receivers like that for a short amount of time until Rome's deal runs around. So that's a possibility. I think to your point, Samo, it all really depends on how well the team plays this year, that if it don't make sense. Because if we struggle this year, it doesn't make sense. If we're a 10-7 team and we make the playoffs and lose in the first round or win a first round, if we're like the Houston Texans, make the playoffs, you know, win a first round, then yes, going forward, because you got an opportunity to really piggyback on that and really build quicker, faster, and you know, catch lightning in a bottle in a 2-year span. Sure. Other than that, I question it to some degree because, again, although he's a great player, I've always liked Keenan. Yeah, as a fantasy person, he's always the guy that I shied away from because I'm like, he's going to be injured. I don't know. And his injuries aren't like the whole. Sometimes it's not the whole year. It's just the nagging injury kind of thing. I don't know if he's playing this week, if he's not practicing, blah, blah, blah. Younger players, you don't worry about that to that extent. When it comes to Velus, look, man, all I know is that Velus Jones must be a wonderful human being. He's got to be the hell of a human because they like him so much that they have tried him at receiver, returner. And you know what? You know, I was playing Madden the other day, and my son told me if I put you at running back, I can exploit matchups against linebackers. You still got to catch the ball.
Yep.
You know, but he's not a small guy. I mean, Velus has got good size. He has, you know, like a receiving back's good size, receiving running back's good size. You know, he's a good 6'2" something. So he's not a small dude. He's just, I don't know why it hasn't translated for him. But again, he must be a hell of a human because they're trying to keep him. It can't be just because he was, you know, a pick from Poles' first year. You got to be beyond that at this point because he literally has not given us anything. And I went to Tennessee, so I'm rooting for all my Vols, and I can't explain Velus to anybody. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I can't get it. So, yeah, man, it's going to be something. There are going to be decisions that are going to have to be made. I know I'm being Captain Obvious here. There's going to be decisions that have to be made, but I think the sooner the better. Just like you can make a decision on DJ's contract sooner, and to your point, getting him in is very economic. Getting him in before CeeDee Lamb signed his, because DJ probably was going to equate like if CeeDee's getting this, then I should be getting that kind of deal. So getting that before that was signed was a good thing as well. So you've got a happy receiver. Rome seems to be happy. I think guys are happy right now. You know, and this is the part where, you know, the other shoe. How's the other shoe? When the shoe comes, are we going to be able to shoehorn it in there? Are we going to change shoes and try this all over again? I don't know. I'm a little. Look, man, you're talking 50 plus years or so watching the Bears. You know, I just told my age a little bit, but 50-some years of watching the Bears, and as a Chicago fan, I done seen the DePaul Blue Demons be the greatest team and lose in the first round. I done seen the White Sox winning ugly, lose when they should have won and beat the Orioles. I done seen the Cubs, and when I used to be a Cub fan, I saw the ball go through Bull Durham's glove, and I done seen the team that whooped San Diego's ass 2 games here in Chicago, lose the next 3 in San Diego. I done seen the 84 Bears, not the 85 Bears, but the 84 Bears. I done seen so much that has been heartbreak that, and I've been here for the successes. And so there's been both parts of it, but as a Chicago fan, I reserve the right to be skeptical, and also to really ask the questions that need to be asked and to hold people accountable for the decisions they've made and the decisions they haven't made, and to see where this goes forward. So man, now's not the time to be scared. Now's the time to make decisions. If you need to let people go, if Bayless has to be, okay. If you need to get a different offer, if Davis has to be gone, okay. Right now it's a time where, we're not that team we were 2 years ago where you're just trying to find bodies and let's see what happens. We're at the point now where you need to make this team and benefit this team, not the team just benefit you.
Ooh, that was a great point, Glenn, because like you said, the 84 Bears, 86 Bears, what is 87 was the strike season, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hell,
but still, they lost to Washington in that playoff game at home.
We lost 2 of them where Darryl Green had that punt return holding his rib. I remember, man. I remember that like it was yesterday. We should have went to the Super Bowl that year. So that's what I'm saying. Like, as optimistic and excited as I am, I'm still cautious. Hell, I say we're going 17-0 based off the schedule I'm looking at. I'm looking at everything. Like, I know our deficiencies on the offensive line, so I'm like, okay, what team are we playing that got hella 5 pass rushers? I'm looking at the Texans. They got Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. But after that, Jacksonville got Josh Allen, like the Rams. I think we could kind of slide by. But again, I'm hearing Dominique Robinson was living in the backfield. When I heard that, I'm like, hold up, time out, stop the press.
You knew something was wrong, didn't you?
When I heard that, I said, look, I told Dominique Robinson. Oh, yeah. Houston, we got a problem. You need to get on that horn pose and see who's unhappy with their current contract, because we're gonna get a 4th round pick for Justin. I'm gonna manifest that he's gonna be the starting quarterback for the Steelers, and he's gonna get how many? 51% of the snaps, or what was the percent?
I don't know.
Whatever it is.
Whatever the percentage is, right.
Right. Yep. We're gonna go and then if Ian Robinson leaves, we get a compensatory pick for that. Some other things happen, because it's safe to say, look like Ja'Tyre Carter's fell out of good favor, with the offensive staff. Larry Bourne, he doesn't look like he's looking good. So, I was kind of like blown away when I saw that Connor Williams deal, like 1 year, $6 million. I'm like, yo, that was a drop in the bucket, because even if Nate Davis come back, he'll be the most expensive swing guard we would have if we cut Ja'Tyre Carter and then cut Larry Bourne and then put Ryan Bates at right guard and put Connor Williams at center. So clearly they must like what they're seeing from Coleman Shelton and the way it's looking, because I think Nate, they say he got a lot of soft tissue issues. So
I do too. I got a lot of soft tissue right around my gut.
I got soft tissue in my back and my neck. You know what I'm saying? Where we need to start, we start talking about soft tissue. But I think a lot of that, well, I don't know. I don't want to assume or speculate, because it seems like a lot of it is emotional as well. A lot of it might be psychological as well. But it doesn't make sense for us to be so happy about all these It's like, okay, we got a brand new Lambo, but at the end of the day, we can't take it out apart, because if we put it on the road, we know what's gonna happen. It's gonna kind of be like when the Joker was walking down, and he did that explosion and just set off all the explosions. It's gonna look just like that. And I'm like, quite frankly, I would rather us solidify these trenches.
Yep.
Where we can really see the maturation process of Caleb really coming to the forefront. And really with Hard Knocks, this is the last thing I really want to touch, because when when I was looking at him in practice, and when he interception or a drop, one thing I like about him, he has a short memory where he's asking the players, the coaches, what do they see? What can we do different? How can we pivot? What adjustment needs to be made? The protection. Why do we need to slide this way? I do like, and he's very demonstrative as far as wanting to know, because he's showing that he wants to be great, but he's still a rookie. So from y'all perspective, and we'll start with you, Glynn, what do you see as far as, or what did you see at Hard Knocks, as far as from that perspective that really either made you say, you know what, we got us one, or it's going to take a while for him to really actually grow into what we want him to be day one?
I'm surprised y'all with a really succinct answer. I ain't see shit yet.
Oh, who was that? Oh, my man. For Austin Reed.
I mean,
Austin Booker. I'm sorry, Austin Reed. No, Austin Booker.
Austin Booker. I mean, I'm cool. I'm cool to some degree. I'm sorry. When you said that, I'm just thinking of Caleb. I'm like, I ain't seen nothing yet, man.
You're right. We haven't.
I ain't seen shit yet,
which is crazy.
As far as Austin Booker goes, I mean, I like what I saw when he was at Kansas, man. I like his physical attributes. Even talking about him during the draft, pre-draft stuff, doing some analysis and what have you. It's like everything you look. His body says he should be a pass rusher. He's got the long arms. He's got the long stride. He does a good job with his quickness. He over pursues a little bit, but that's a teachable thing. I think he is better against the run than even he has realized yet. I think, however, he's going to have to get more functional strength at an NFL level. But in terms of the physical attributes, nothing. I don't see anything wrong at all. I'm pleased with that, and I think Montez is the big brother type kind of dude that he can learn stuff from. And Montez has such an equal parts to his game as far as against the run and as a pass rusher. You're only going to learn from that. Having great guys in the locker room, having great veterans really helps the team in a lot of ways. Have guys who are established, effective, and that you can see, talk, and understand while you're watching as well is only going to benefit. That's why I think that defense, you look at the defense, it's the reason why they're excelling, aside from, their health, because they've had some health issues in the secondary too, but they've had good veterans in place and they've got some good talent in place. And that mix of that is really gelling. And defenses usually do gel quicker than offensives do because of the timing and what have you. But even with that being said, that defense really took a couple levels. And again, that's another big reason why Eberflus is here. But getting back to, again, what have I seen? Like when it comes to Caleb, I ain't seen anything yet. I know it's practice, but it's, in shorts. You're going to look great. They're what quarterback, if you don't look good in practice at this point, then it is a pretty big problem. So I'm not worried about that. But, I know I have an idea of what I'm going to see. I'm going to see some of what I saw in college. The question is, and I mean, what I saw in college, I'm going to see the good and the bad in college. The question is, how consistent can we make the good, and how much more quickly can we get rid of what was bad? How can they harness that? And really, you guys will sort of, we talked about the offensive line ad nauseum tonight so far with for good reason. What we really need to focus on is that relationship that Shane Waldron and Joseph are going to have with the quarterback. That's the most important thing in terms of the development of that offense, in terms of conceptually. What happens on the field, the physical part, you need your health. That's with the offensive line. That's our concern. We're not concerned about the offensive line. Can they do it? We know they have the ability. Can they put it together week in and week out? Can they stay healthy enough? Can they sync it up, in that regard? But with executing an offense, doing a drive, doing a 2-minute drive, doing a drive to win the game at the end, doing a drive to make up for a mistake you made earlier because of a pick, all those kind of things, we have no effing idea what that's going to translate into. And I think we're going to see some of what we saw in college he's going to force some things. He's going to try and do some, even with all the talent around him, he's still going to try and force them. And he may have to because the offensive line is not being healthy. He may have flashbacks to USC, you know. So at this point, again, I just made a long ass answer. I said I was going to be succinct. I ain't seen nothing yet. I ain't seen nothing yet. So I'm waiting to see.
Well, you know, I want to see him operate the offense like Brett Rippon did, but I realized with Brett Rippon that was a bunch of 2s and 3s. He's been in the league 6 years, but I want him to take the layups. You know, I want him to get the ball out quick because I think early on when he gets into that rhythm, then after that, when stuff break down off platform, like I definitely feel comfortable with Keenan. Man, Keenan Allen, he's a route runner extraordinaire. Route DJ, like. It's so many targets where I know it's going to be enticing not to take the layups. You know, I think early on because that was the biggest issue. Because whether people want to believe it or not, Caleb is just like Justin in the mindset of being a big game hunter. Yeah. The only difference between Caleb and Justin's gonna run. Caleb gonna run to free up time for the receiver to get open and make that like he threw to Tyler Scott. Like that's the only difference I see. But like I said, Caleb got if he operates in time and space and let it rip, you know, I think he'll be okay. Now where he'll get in trouble, like I said, sitting back there patting the ball because they said 7-on-7, 11-11, the ball wasn't coming out fast. Now who else had that issue?
Another guy.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, when we're looking at this, and it's like we got to really mentally, hopefully, we hope that he makes that adjustment. Like that's the first thing when these live bullets start flying. That's matter of fact, tomorrow at 12 o'clock. That's what I'm looking for. I want to see if the ball's coming out on time. If he's sitting back there patting now, then you know that's going to be an issue that I know that Kerry Joseph and Shane Waldron and Thomas Brown, they're going to work with him to really make him be more on time. So that's what I'm looking for. So I think that'll be a great way for us to transition into the game tomorrow against Buffalo. What are 3 things y'all looking for? Start with you, Samo, tomorrow.
Like you said, I want to see how he responds to adversity. Like Glynn was saying, man, yeah, he's the real deal. He was the real deal in college, man. We all know that players come into the NFL, especially quarterbacks, and, you know, for some reason, you know, that it's harder for them. It's harder for them to read those coverages. That's why they hold on to the ball. And, you know, they don't have the clock just isn't fast enough. And, you know, as far as him being that big game hunter and having that ability to sneak out of the pocket and look downfield, yeah, that's good. That's a good ability to have. But we don't know that that's going to work in the NFL because players are bigger and faster in the NFL than they were in college that he was facing in the Pac-12 of all places too. So, you know, we got to make sure that that stuff is going to work for him. Like, I want to see him have some adversity. I want to see him respond to that adversity. Like, if he has a bad play, I don't want to see him or a bad series. I want to see him come back and start big game hunting. I want to see him continue to play within the offense, man, right. You know, and trust the offensive coordinator and not try to put his cape on and just take over the game, because that's what scares me about Caleb Williams. You know, we saw that, man. We saw him put the cape on too many times when we need him to just play within the offense. He doesn't have to do that because he has everything around him. So he has to trust the offense, trust his offensive coordinator, trust the process, I guess I would say, and develop into, you know, into that guy who can play on schedule so that he can get that stuff off schedule and be special in those moments. But I want to see him do that. I want to see more Austin Booker, man. I think Austin Booker had a pretty good game the other day, man. I thought he played with great leverage, used his length really well. He has great playing strength, even though he's not really big in the run game. I saw him get lost at times. He got lost at times. He just didn't recognize what was happening as quickly. But I saw a lot from him, man, as far as some like veteran type moves and, you know, counter moves and like hand usage is big to me on the defensive line. Like the dude uses his hands amazingly, like to be a rookie, a 4th round pick too. So like, yeah, that's so that meant a lot to me. That tells me that it's going to click for him at some point. Like he has a lot to work with right now. And I'm glad he has a Keith Washington to work with right now too, that's going to really develop that and harness those skills, because he has all the natural talent that he needs to be successful in the league. So I want to see him, and man, I want to see what we're gonna do, man, at this with this offense, man. I want to see how these 3 wide receivers. I want to see what Shane Waldron, I guess. I want to see how Shane Waldron uses Caleb and his offense and all the weapons that we have. I want to see him be creative, because that's what we saw from him in Seattle. He's an extremely creative dude, man. He uses a lot of eye candy with motions and stuff. Them putting Valus in the backfield is now another guy that they can use to kind of show some eye candy and motion him around and make defenses think for a second. And we know if a defense has to think about something for a second, then you can sneak something in behind them and stuff like that. So yeah, I want to see that. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Will, quickly, I want to circle back to your comments on Connor Williams before we get too far ahead in this. We just had a 15 to 10 minute conversation on the injuries on the offensive line, and you're worried about bringing in Connor Williams. What do you think about that for a second? The man has 2 ACL injuries.
And as I said, I thought about that. I said it's clearly something that we haven't seen those medical records. So I digress.
and that's fine. I understand Connor Williams was a great. He's one of those little toys that kind of hangs in the window that you want but you can't have.
Yep.
But at this time, man, I can't take the 2 ACL injuries on just, okay, he's going to be fine. I don't really care what his agent has to say about it, because I know he's one good hit away or one good block away from blowing that out again, and we're going to be having this conversation all over again. So I'm fine with not dropping $6 million on him. Now, in terms of the game tomorrow, I want to see Caleb Williams, how he runs the offense. I don't care about his stats. I don't care if he doesn't throw a touchdown. I just want to see how he works with Coach Waldron and how he runs things, and how he comes back from adversity, like you said. If there's a sack, if there's an incompletion, just look at him from a mental standpoint more than a physical standpoint. We know the tools are there.
Right.
I do want to see how Eric Washington also handles the defense. He had the clipboard at the Hall of Fame game. I hope Flus just lets him have it all year. Now, he can have final veto power. I'm fine with that. But let a man, somebody else, not the head coach, draw up your defensive plays a little bit. Because obviously he knows what he's doing. He did come from a very successful defense in Buffalo. All right. And last guy is another defensive player. I know you said Austin Booker, but I want to see Gervin Dexter and see how he translates from practice to live games. Because like we said, it's practice. We can all do great in practice. Tyson Bagent does great in practice. Did he do great in the Hall of Fame game? Absolutely not. So
yeah, you're right.
Hey, you better let Corm hear you say that, Walt.
Tell him to his face. I don't care.
What you thinking, Glenn? What you looking for tomorrow? What's the 3 keys you looking?
Colin Johnson. I really want to see him build on what he did.
I love that young man. I love it.
Because if he can be that 4th, 5th receiver, but that plays a lot, that gives us a lot of versatility. If I'm always concerned about injuries, I know I come across here as like Mr. Gloom and Doom. I'm not. I want to get all the bad stuff and new. Like I want to see with everything that can possibly go wrong and make sure I have a counter to that. So when I present these things, as we're talking to the general public and we're doing these podcasts and we're talking, I don't take it for being negativity. I'm seeing these are areas that I see that are a problem. And I want to know that we have a solution for that problem. Okay. So when I look at quarterbacks, I want to know who's the backup quarterback. I'm not so much worried about the starter per se, because they're supposed to be the starter. How good my quarterback room is lets me know how good my offense or team can be overall. Sidetrack real quick, back to the 2000 Ravens. Early on, I was like, dude, this team's going to go to a Super Bowl, because I saw the depth that they had quarterback. Trent Dilfer backing up. I think it was Banks at the time. I can't remember his first name. But it was the depth. It was the depth of that team on both sides of the ball. So transitioning out here to this team, again, just reiterating what I've talked about most of the day, depth has been an issue that I've seen as a concern. So as far as what I see going forward, what I want to see from tomorrow, Colin Johnson, that gives me that surety that when that receiving room, if Keenan goes down, Roma Dunze has that flexibility to play in the slot or play on the outside. He did some slot at Washington. I think he's learning from Keenan. I think he models, and some of what I see in Rome is just, I saw him as a faster Keenan anyway when he was playing in college. So if I can slide Keenan on the inside of, say, I can slide Rome on the inside if Keenan goes down, I can feel good that Colin can be that possession receiver on the outside. You know, that he can play on the outside because Colin's not going to. He doesn't have that wiggle or that kind of agility or that adept route running yet to be that person in the slot to control the middle of the field. But on the outside, he's a matchup problem because of his height, his length. He can get up and down the field. He may not have that explosive speed, but he has that long speed. Yep. So that gives me that he's a solution to a problem because right now, if Keenan goes down, now I'm asking, am I going to put Tyler Scott in the slot and expect the same kind of offense? I don't know. Is he going to be Smith and Jigba? I don't think he's at that level yet because he's not that good a route runner. He hasn't shown that to be just yet. And his hands haven't been shown to be dependable just yet. So Colin, I need him to do well so that I feel better about that receiving room because that's invariably going to help Caleb if when the line has issues and Caleb does what he does, he can find somebody. And Colin is a tall dude to find. So I really want to see, and although Colin and Caleb probably won't play together tomorrow on the field, it just gives me that surety into that depth. I also want to see Zach Pickens. I want to know that you have somebody, again, depth-wise, that can be explosive when we need him to be. Maybe not. I don't foresee him necessarily being an every down guy at this point, but he can come in, be it on nickel downs. He comes in and he provides a bit more burst than Dexter. Dexter is more of a power push guy. And I need Zach to be more of a quick guy up the field kind of guy. And I want to see that. I want to hear his name talked about a lot when he gets a chance to play. And lastly, as far as the third person, I want to see Byard. I want to see how well that secondary, especially the back end of it, the safeties, how they work, how he and Brisker work together. I don't think it'll be a bad thing. I'm not saying I'm worried about it. I just want to see how it looks. That's all. Yeah. So those are the three things I'm looking forward to. And overall, how the coaches handle the substitutions, how the coaches handle the game plan, how the coaches just handle the whole day in and of itself.
And see, those are all great points, Glenn, because at the end of the day, I want to see it. And I know it's going to be vanilla because it's a preseason game, but I want to see if we're going to use a lot of 11 personnel or we're going to use a lot of 12 personnel. That in itself will give us some small insight as to what Shane Waldron thinks about that line. Because if we're running more 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, then that tells me right there he doesn't trust all 5 of them to be on the island to block my mama, and she 84. So at the end of the day, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the matchup in the RB room, like how much allocation breakdown-wise will go to Velus Jones. Because Herbert, he had a good game. Roshan did pretty well. We're going to see a bit of DeAndre. And then are you going to throw Ian Wheeler in there? And let's see what we got. Versatility. Then you got Felton. So I want to see the versatility because, like, one of those guys could potentially – because I don't really like Rome returning punts. So I think Carter, I want to see how he does returning punts. Oh, and I want to see what other option that's not Dante. I guess Dante Pettis now, he got the dropsy. So, unfortunately – that would have been a good role for him, but after his gaffe last week, I really hope he comes and puts some better film on tape. So when he gets released, somebody will be like, oh, you know what? He still might be a good serviceable player. But, because we already know for the most part at each position, who's who. And like you said earlier, I want to see what production we're going to get out of Dominic. Because last week, Dominique Robinson, like, he didn't get close to the quarterback. I want to see before we make this big splash on this edge, if we got somebody in the house right now, whether it be Austin Booker, DeMarcus Walker, and we know Walker's a better fit sliding in at the 3 as far as getting pressure. So I think it's safe to say that we will be getting another edge added to this team. I don't know whether it be via trade or via cut, because if you trade, then we're gonna have to give up a draft pick. But those are the things I'm looking for. A lot of the depth pieces. Do we retain? Because if you cut Larry Bourne and Travis Homer, I think that frees up another $5-6 million right there. And there was another player I think if we cut that has some type of accelerated bonus slated for this year and guaranteed dollars that would free up some more cap space to give us some more flexibility to go get some areas of need to solidify where we can compete.
Yeah, but The question you got to ask yourself is too: we can have all the money in the world, but what are we going to spend it on? Is there something that's better than what we don't have, what we have right now?
Right.
And we would be having to trade for someone at that point in time. And that's the same thing I was going to say when we were talking about, having all these draft picks. Like, what good is having all these draft picks if we're picking the wrong players? If we're picking Valence Joneses and Roshan Johnsons and Dominique Robinsons, those are all, I think, gaps by Brian Poles, man, where he fell in love with the person. Even Karan Emegachi, like to an extent, like we needed someone who was going to be available this year. And if you didn't evaluate him medically and say that he was going to be available, then we shouldn't have drafted him. Regardless of how much you love the kid, I think that's where I'm afraid for Ryan Post. He falls in love with the personality as opposed to falling in love with the talent a little bit too much for me sometimes when he makes some of these picks. So that's something that just scares me that I've been looking at and thinking about, because Valence, man, we should have drafted Valence. And because we see what Valence is, we saw what he was in college. And
whoa. He's on the college, man. He was doing it. He's put him down in Tennessee, man.
In 1 year for one season. Yeah, for that one season.
He was only there for 1 year. He was at USC before.
He was at USC before and did nothing. We didn't know who he was before that. Then the Packers draft 3 receivers after that, and they come kill us in the playoffs. All 3 of them. We had Bo Melton and who was it? Samarji,
Dontavian Witt, Jaden Reed.
Like all these guys were drafted way after Valence, and they came in and killed us. So it's just stuff like that. I'm afraid of our evaluation process, so a little bit too. So,
but Doug Van Dorn, that's a good point that he just made too, because I think about this every day. Realistically, other than Gervon Dexter, what other player do we have at this time that can play the 3 tech and be dominant? Because see, Walker, if he's next to Montez, he's capable of winning his one-on-one, but it's going to take a lot to have that scenario set up every time. So that's a good point that Doug Van Dorn made, that, and I'm thinking that too. It might be a trade with somebody to get a 3 tech, because if you got a good 3 tech that's going to push that pocket, then
but they hard to find, bro. That's the $65 million question. Like, that's a big reason why my guy who's at Philadelphia, not my guy, but the Georgia pick last year, Philadelphia took him. We traded down.
Carter.
Carter. I'm sorry. That's why Jalen Carter was like the perfect fit, from what we saw his time at Georgia, that was like, it's almost like drafting Tommy. It's like, oh wow, we got, like, he fell to us. Like when we got Tommy out of Oklahoma, it was like, dude, like he fits perfectly. Like it was like hand in glove. You know what I'm saying? Right now we got an OJ kind of glove. That shit ain't fitting.
We're trying to make it fit.
We're trying to make it fit.
Yep, you're right.
So it'd be great if you can just go out in the free agent market and get a 3 technique, man. But I mean, to your point, I think some of you were saying, and bouncing on what Will was saying too, it's like we got the money, but for the last several years, we've been trying to fill the same position. We've been asking for an edge rusher since day one. Since Flus got here, we've been asking for it. Flus has been asking for this. He's been begging for this too, by the way. Can you please give me? I want to keep my job. Can you give me a 3 technique? Can you give me an edge rush? We finally got one, not because we drafted one, not because we got a free agent, but you got one in a trade to get Montez. That was very prescient. I think that's where Poles really excels, when he makes those kind of moves. Sometimes even happens in season. It didn't work out with the wide receiver, Claypool, but it worked out with Montez. But how often are you going to be able to make those moves and hit every time? That's the thing. It's like that's the difficult part, and that's where when you have 7, 8, 9 picks in a particular draft sequence, you can double up in spots. Like he got Dexter and Pickens. Okay, you're hoping one of those guys hit, but you're able to double up in that area. That's fine. Where has he done it anywhere else? Where have we had the success anywhere else? Think about it. Some of the players that he's paid weren't the guys that he drafted.
Yep.
Didn't draft Montez. Didn't draft Jalen. It's like some of these are the guys that you're paying, and that's okay. You're paying for what you have, but to the point that was brought out, what is the evaluation process? There's a little concern at times in certain areas. Offensive line, it's still 50-50 at this point. Receiving, we hope Rome's the person, but if it isn't, if he shouldn't be. But if Rome doesn't work out for whatever reason, there hasn't been any receiver that's been taken that has done anything since he's been here. So, and we have yet to draft an edge rusher. I mean, really, Booker's the first really edge rusher we've drafted of any kind of note, and he was what they went back into the draft to get him after they quote unquote thought they were done with their initial draft pick. They use a pick from next year to get back into the draft. So, these are concerns. I'm not being negative. I just want solutions. That's all. Give me some solutions, and I will be the happiest man in the world.
Yeah, Sam, I just wanted to bring up your comments on Quran and the evaluation there. I mean, from everything I've read, it sounded like that they had a slight idea of how he would be coming back from his quad injury or the surgery, but somewhere along the way that kind of went by the wayside, and now it's a little more extended. Now, unfortunately, in medical terms, that's bound to happen, right? We can only look so deep, and then it's up to the person themselves. So, but I mean, Karana Mengaji has the talent, and he has the work ethic, the motor. His game looks good from a technical standpoint. I mean, I understand Yale isn't the greatest school in terms of a football program, but you can see the difference that he did versus some of the other offensive linemen on that squad, right? So Poles definitely sees something in him. I mean, as do I, and as a lot of people do, and I know you do too. But in terms of the rest of his draft, we're not going to hit 100% of the time. I mean, we're lucky if we hit 50% of the time. Honestly, that's how I look at it. Anything below that?
No, screw that, man. I need to hit 60%. I need the Pittsburgh Steelers 1972 or 73. I need Stallworth and Swan drafted in the same draft. I need Jack Ham or Lambert, whichever Jack was drafted in that one. That's the kind of draft. I mean, hell, I go back to the 82 or 83 draft or whatever, or 81, whichever one it was that brought us Colbert.
Bears.
When we had Jim Finks, a draft. And not just a draft, but significant drafts. And I get your point. We're not going to always hit on that. Understandable. But you don't want to miss high in your upper echelon picks, and you want to be consistent with the type of players that you do draft, so that you're not going to draft a superstar, but you want to draft guys that can star in their roles. If I can sign, glom onto a phrase that's used a lot these days. You want to draft players who can be very good in the roles that they're proficient at and that you drafted them for. And you have to define those roles, and we're still in that process. To be quite honest, putting everything down there on the table, we are still in the process of developing those roles. It looks good right now, but we're still in the process of development. We got a number one wide receiver in DJ. Now we got, looks like 2, maybe even 3. Okay, we got a good running back room. Okay, looks like we don't have a bell cow, but that's not necessarily the NFL these days. But we have a lot of athletic receiving running backs who can run and catch the ball. That's good. You got a big guy in Roshan, and hopefully he can be more of a power back. Okay, you're defining roles. That part's good. Offensive line, I don't know what the hell's going on. we're still working on that. It looks potentially good on the outside. The interior's got a lot of questions. Health and talent and evaluations galore in that area. Quarterback, 100 years still trying to figure that shit out. So, that's still something we're trying to figure out. On the defensive line, the interior, big question mark. We have one answer on the outside part. Okay. Secondary seems the only part where it's solidified. And then to my point, there's depth there. So I'm not worried. Terrell Smith is there. I'm not worried. You know what I'm saying? The other guys that were backing up last year who got some playing time early on, they're solid. Secondary is how I want the rest of the team to look. I want to have solutions. I want to have answers in certain areas. And I need some guys who can be exceptional. Gordon can be exceptional in the nickel slot. Briscoe can be exceptional as that safety that's an impact player, both physically and making plays on the field. Your linebackers, versatile, solid, almost typical Bear linebackers in that sense. So that's why we have less question marks about the defense. In the offense, we're still defining roles. We're not there yet. Super Bowl's not here just yet. You know what I'm saying? We need to define those roles. Once that's better defined, I'll feel a lot better about where we're going. You look at some of these other teams that have been great for a long time, they understand where they need to fill in spots because everything's been defined. Kansas City is ascended to that spot now. They're at that spot now where you can survive bad receivers last year who couldn't catch the ball and still win because your defense was that much more developed and defined. Your coaching staff knows who they are. There's consistency and continuity in the coaching staff. Offensive line still has some issues. Your tight end answers a lot of questions. Your quarterback answers a lot of questions. The coaching staff answers a lot of questions when they have problems to figure it out. Those things have been defined. They've been through the fire. That kind of adversity they grew from. And so there you have it. We're not there yet. The Lions are a lot closer. I hate to say it, but Detroit looks very good. And Detroit looks like it's going to be good for a while. There's competency in that front office. They're developing continuity.
I'll give you that part, Glenn, but the coaching staff of the Lions still has its mental issues to work through. We saw that last year.
No doubt. They're aggressive at times and probably overly so, but we'll see how they bounce back this year from that. Because hey, I'm Kyle Shanahan. How many Super Bowls has he blown?
Yeah, exactly.
Quite a few.
He hasn't learned from his mistakes yet.
Yeah, but no one's really knocking him per se. And he's had more time, more opportunities than with the Lions. The Lions are just getting there, but they're developing that. They're showing that there's a synergy between that head coach and the general manager. That these are the type of players I need to win. These are the type of players that I need over here to succeed. This is the type of coaches I want to have coaching these guys. Johnson came back for another year. He could have been a head coach somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? So they're developing that continuity. They're defining who they are. They have an identity. Mm-hmm. The Packers have had an identity for almost 30 years now.
Yep. And they just keep building on it. And they pick the players and they have plans for the players that they draft and they put them in position to be successful. And they're drafting players that fit their system, which is the concern that I have when going back to just talking about the draft. Like we're drafting Roschon Johnson, who's not a fit for an outside zone. He's a power runner. We're drafting Javon Dexter to play 3-tech when he was a 2-gap guy who doesn't, he's also extremely tall, who doesn't play with great leverage all the time. So it's going to take time to develop him, and that's in a vital position to our defense. So when we had other guys in the draft like Keanu Benton's and guys who were just explosive guys that we could have gotten in that position. And then we take a guy like the other defensive tackle, I always forget his name, Pickens that we drafted, and then we move him, take him, who is an explosive guy, and we asked him to be a nose tackle. So stuff like that it just concerns me for it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? How are we drafting? What are we thinking about? Do we have a plan for guys that we're drafting? Why not just draft the guy that fits what we want to do and not try to draft the guy and say we think we can make him fit what we want him to do, especially in the first 3 rounds. I can see doing that in the 4th or 5th round, but the first 3 rounds, you don't fuck around like that, man. I think you should just draft the guys that are going to fit, that can play in your system, and you have a plan for them. And I think that's why the secondary is so successful, because you typically have a plan for those guys and they're well coached. That's why they always have success. We talk about Josh Blackwell's and those guys and Greg Stroman's, those guys come in and they're ready to play every week. It's because of the coaching too. And it seems like the coaches have a plan for the players that they draft at those positions. Whereas the other positions on the team that are of need, especially the defensive line, offensive line, we're drafting guys and we're saying, hey, we think he can play here. He was a tackle. He was a tackle with short arms. We think he can play guard. We're going to try to see how this works out for him. He came from a small school. We're going to see how this works out. So, let's be a little bit more considerate when we're drafting players. That's just what I'm concerned about. When I'm
No. I completely understand your concerns, and they're warranted, of course. But the way I'm looking at it is when, at least how I view it, and I can't speak for anyone else, is if when I'm going to draft a player, yes, it'd be great if he came right out the gun and was successful, right? But when I'm drafting for maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. I want these players to be in it for the long haul. I don't care if I have to deal with some missteps early on. That comes with the business. I know that going in. And if I get a guy that can come out and be like, who was the defensive tackle for the Rams last year? Picked up 9 sacks.
Oh, yeah, I know you're talking about.
I liked him too.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I got
From
that as Reverend
Texas, the
Dexter
guy
last
from
year,
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name right now. But to your point, though, Walt, that too, though, if you're thinking about it like that, then after 2 years, I got to know what you are, because after the 4th year, I got to pay you. After the 3rd or the 4th year, I got to pay you. Now I got to consider whether I'm going to re-sign you, Turner. Yeah.
And that's why the old adage is usually you have to wait 3 years to validate a draft class, whether it's good or bad.
But you got to stay. You got to keep your job as the general manager and the coach. Though.
Well, I mean,
that's the other trick.
Yeah, it's all part of those things, and it's always got to be like, if I'm going to draft one way, I have to sacrifice something else. So it depends on the person drafting what they're willing to sacrifice for the greater good, so to speak, of the roster. And that's something we won't know because we don't live in the mind of Ryan Poles. We can only speculate and guess.
And here we are. We are wondering how this is going to look this year, because it needs to come together. You only have so many draft picks. You can only spend so much money in free agency, and you're telling us by taking Caleb, by taking Rome, by moving to get Keenan Allen, you're telling us, and you've pretty much said it, now is the time to be this ascendant type kind of team. Okay, are you ready for that ascension? Are you prepared? Because if your foundation is a little shaky, then the structure you're building on top of, has the ability to be a house of cards. And that's, again, getting to who you are, having an identity, and building and staying consistent with that. Pittsburgh Steelers, only 3 head coaches in my lifetime. Just 3. We've had 3 general managers since I've been at NBC Sports Chicago. 3 general managers. Yep. Okay, that changes the whole dynamic of what you're doing going in, because each general manager has their own agenda, has their own way of how they want to do it. I don't want to talk about it. It's been 4 or 5 head coaches since they've been there since 2004. With Lovey, not a dynamic head coach, but consistent. You knew what he wanted, had the players were in place. These are the players we need to succeed. Defensively, no problem. That seems to be, bread and butter here in Chicago. Offensively, offensive line and running game was solid. Just, had that Florida quarterback who's a piece of garbage. But anyway, but
you got the perfect name, Rex Gross, man.
Yeah, it was gross. But even with that being said, you look at that Bear team that Rex was helming. You look at it, and a lot of it mirrored the '85 Bears in terms of how it was comprised. You had a speedster in Berrien. We had a speedster in Willie Gault. You had the possession guy. We had a position guy. You had the running back. You had a lot of things. You had the offensive line in place. You had it to where you had 2 running backs. You had it where you can do play action. All those things were in place because you understood who you were. You had an identity. We had a great return person. That's something that nobody in the history of the league has ever had. Someone as dynamic as Devin Hester. And that 3rd unit, that's the first time I really heard say 3 phases as much as Lovey did. That 3rd phase, the special teams, was as important, if not more so, than it was as important as the defense in a lot of respects. Mm-hmm. So who are we? You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they know who they are. The Ravens know who they are. There's other teams, Packers, other teams, even the Patriots for 20 years. They benefit from Brady, but they also made a lot of other decisions because they knew the type of player they wanted to put in place. Belichick's like, okay, you can't do this at that team, but I can bring you here because I need you just to be a star in this role because I know and it's defined and it works well with what we're doing here. You got to know who you are. And I don't know what our identity is yet on offense. Defensively, I got a better idea. But right now, we're trying to make this Bears team, and you're using Hard Knocks to really, try to focus in on this is a new thing with Chicago. It's going to have a quarterback. It's going to revolve around offense. You're going to have dynamic plays. You got personalities like DJ's got a personality. Rome is a good dude. Keenan's that sage veteran. You got this bright, shiny Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, the 1st pick overall. Bears up, or claws up, bear down. All this stuff looks really good and don't mean a god thing unless it starts to happen on the field and you develop that identity. So hopefully we'll see that develop in this Hard Knocks as we push into the 2024 season.
And I think we will, Glenn. I think it's going to be tomorrow is the start of the new era officially. we're going to see Caleb Williams. And the problem was Ryan Poles kind of came in at a very interesting time. His quarterback incumbent was, 2 years left on his contract. He wasn't sure if he was going to keep him based on everything we've heard now. I don't know if he was ever in the plans. So you can't really build an identity if you don't know what your star player is going to be, right? We have that now. We know it's going to be Caleb Williams. He made that decision. Now we can finally kind of start defining more of those offensive roles. Because like you said, the defense is in pretty good shape. You got Montez Sweat. You got guys like Austin Booker, Dexter Pickens. The secondary's got Kevin Byard, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker. All those guys are set, and their roles are pretty well defined at this point. You brought in a new offensive coordinator that has more than half a brain in his skull, unlike Luke Getsy. And we've already seen the offense take a giant leap forward. Yes, it was vanilla in the Hall of Fame game, but you could see just the way receivers were on the field, the way the tight ends moved, the way the running backs hit the holes. The offensive line wasn't that bad. I understand it was backup versus backups, right? But if they're, I don't want to say shit. If they're shit, they're shit, and they're going to be bad no matter what.
Right.
But I think people just got, like I said, relax a little bit with what's going on in training camp, because we're not seeing everything. We're getting only little snippets of what people want us to see. It's that magical rule number 2: only let them see what you want them to see, right? So we're gonna have to deal with that. But I think we're gonna see at least the beginning of what the offense is gonna look like tomorrow, and that's what I'm really happy about. I'll leave it at that.
We're all looking forward to it. I know that. We are all looking forward to seeing whatever it's going to be. And whatever it is tomorrow, it doesn't mean that's what it's going to be when we get to game 1 of the season 2. So I know we all have our opinions about where it's going to go and what it looks like right now and our concerns. But I don't want to scare everybody out there in the chat. But there are some real concerns. But, we have, like I said, over 30 days to get our shit together. So, just know that. Just know that. And so whatever we see tomorrow, whether good or bad, it could all change. So just don't get too high, don't get too low. But it's finally back, and I'm happy for it.
True that.
Well said, Timo.
Yeah, that was well expressed and well articulated. Because, man, I tell you, look, we've been fiending since the Super Bowl. Like it's been torture. So just the thought of us in a position on paper, nothing less than the playoffs, nothing less. I'm putting that out there. I'm forecasting if the line stays somewhat consistent and healthy. There's no reason why this team at a minimum floor should win 10 games. Because I'm looking at the teams we're playing. Like, realistically, the only quarterback we should have to worry about, think about the only quarterback is C.J. Stroud. What other quarterback would you – and if you want to say Jordan Love, you can, but I'm not afraid of Jordan Love.
And you know what, we'll start –
That's a tough schedule.
They saying Jordan Love.
You think it's a tough schedule?
They've been saying Jordan is tough, man. He looking tough in practice right now.
I think the first half of the schedule is the softest spot because you get the Panthers in there, you get New England in there.
Yeah.
But people are
Commanders.
I think people are underestimating what Washington's going to do. I think people are underestimating what Tennessee can do. I think people are underestimating the Jacksonville because they had a bad year last year. But you're playing Jacksonville basically for Jacksonville. It's a home game because they go to England all the time now. We're underestimating what that kind of travel is going to do to us, a team that's not used to that. We've got several games that are primetime games that we have to get used to how that schedule is going to affect with their day to day. How are they going to prepare and train, and how they're going to acclimate their bodies to the schedule being off in terms of being regular. And then on the back half is what I'm the most concerned about, because you're playing every division opponent within a short amount of time twice, and they've had 8 or 9 games to watch and see what you are, what you can and can't do. And in the middle of all that, you get a San Francisco team and the Seattle team that are going to be fighting for their division and fighting for a playoff spot. So all of those games are going to matter. And then there's the crush of, if we don't have the depth, which we're seeing some issues now, that may rear its head later in the season. As the season wears on, you're dealing with the attrition, the natural organic attrition that happens for pretty much every NFL team. On top of that, if Caleb struggles, if Caleb gets nicked up, who's our backup quarterback? I'll be really feeling great about their ability to challenge these teams later on too. So yeah, I look at that schedule and I'm like, yeah, I don't care so much about the quarterback. That's a big deal. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not eschewing that. I'm saying that our wins and losses aren't just tied to the quarterback. What are the defenses that we're playing? Because our offense is the one that has to score. Because I'm not worried about who we can stop from scoring. I'm worried about can we score. So for us to have success this year, to your point, Will, to win those 10 games, and I think we can. I don't think there's any team on there that we can't beat. Subsequently, I don't think there's any team on here that can't beat us, that wouldn't have a problem beating us as well, conversely. But to your point, for this team, I think to be successful, to see that kind of success, to reach that 10 double digits status and plateau, that the defense is probably going to have to score, especially early on in the season, until we figure out offensively who we are, till we develop that identity. We're going to have to depend on that defense to score and that special teams to help us positionally. And even that punter that I wasn't so pumped about in the draft, for him to help allocate field position a little bit better for us so that we can dictate terms with our defense. Right now, going to the season, we're going to have to lean heavily on the defense, and expectations for that special teams unit needs to be high as well until the offense can round into form, because it's going to be difficult rounding into form with a rookie quarterback with an inconsistent offensive line.
I agree with that.
Yeah, no, and to your point, Glenn, you're right. With the division game so late in the season, it gives them time to build up tape against our team. And that's just unfortunate, right? But it also gives our rookie quarterback time to take his lumps early and often against lesser tier competition.
Sure.
So it works well in both ways, right?
Hopefully.
You got to take the good and the bad. Hopefully either way, right?
Well, here's what I do know. I do know that those other teams, Detroit and Green Bay, are playoff caliber teams. We know that. We do know that those quarterbacks are entrenched in their offensive systems, and that the offensive coordinators have been there for several years. So they know and have an identity of who that. That we know. We know same thing with San Francisco. Seattle, different head coach. So we'll see how that team, but talent-wise, just as good, if not better than us. What we don't know is about our rookie quarterback. We don't know how our offense is going to round into form. So that unknown is why I'm a little dubious. To your point, Walt, yes, we can develop during that time and allay some of those concerns. That has to happen, because if that doesn't happen in that amount of time, I can guarantee you what we do know on that second half is we're going to get our ass handed to us, because we're coming to the party. We're coming to the party, talking about, where the drink's at. We're like, no, it was a bring your own drink. Did you know? Did you get the memo?
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the thing,
we'll
right?
be ready.
That's the thing. We won't know, and we're not going to know until we actually get there. So,
look, our defense plays well against Jared Goff. It plays well against Sam Darnold. But those two games against Love, the first game, I just think they were ill prepared. Second game, I don't think Jalen Johnson. Who else did play? I know Jalen Johnson didn't play.
No, he didn't.
I don't think so.
But we didn't get no pressure. We only had one sack. Jordan Love, he threw for 300. And then Aaron Jones did. That's why I'm not scared of the Packers, because I think Aaron Jones did the most damage. Every time we play Josh Jacobs, for the most part, we bottled him up. So when you look at the dynamics of and that's why I say I'm looking at these other teams, because I know, hell, even with us, what we're going through with Caleb as far as the adjustment period. So when I look at the first couple of games out the shoot, Levis, I'm not afraid of him. Anthony Richardson, I'm not afraid of him. CJ Stroud, I am afraid of him. You're
afraid of, no disrespect, you're afraid of the wrong things.
You think so?
Dude, look at the team. That's my whole point. We focus so much on the quarterback. Look at the team around those cats. You about the Colts. The Colts were 9-8 with freaking Gardner Minshew. Okay. Them and the Texans were about to win that division. It came down to those two teams playing each other. Who won that division, basically? Gardner Minshew, that head coach, who's Shane Steichen, who's a former offensive coordinator. The Eagles ain't looked the same since he left, but the Colts looked a lot better.
That's true.
The Colts offensive line is set. That defense front seven is set. The defense is underrated. We don't know about them. Nobody talks about them because it's Indianapolis. They ain't no media market, and they don't have a superstar to focus on them. But you play them, you're like, man, this team is hard to beat. They have a number one wide receiver. They have solid receivers. I forget who they just picked up. But they got Alec Pierce. They drafted,
Donnie Mitchell.
Yes, Adney Mitchell out of Texas.
But you talking
That's
about
another problem.
one wide receiver? Who you talking about? You talking about Mike
Pittman, and I'm
Pittman.
talking about in Pierce. Dude, Pierce is like
Pierce, yep.
6'4", runs a
Out of
sub
Cincinnati.
440.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was, yeah.
Dude, their running back is one of the top 5 running backs in the league, bro.
Jonathan
Anthony
Taylor.
Richardson.
Which
Yes,
means we will have to score points. Like to your point, we have to be able to score points because these other teams are going to give us some trouble. Like we rely on our defense to be the strength of our team, but they're going to give up some scores. That's inevitable. We have to be able to score, and that's the trend of the NFL. You know, if teams that score a lot in during the regular season are going to make it to the playoffs. You have to have a good offense to make it to the playoffs. Then in the playoffs, then your defense is where, and your running game is what wins in the playoffs.
And those teams, some of those early teams, not Carolina, but you talk about the first couple of games. You talk about Tennessee and Houston just improved where they were at. So that's a problem. Clearly, that's like facing Kansas City last year. You go in knowing that's probably not going to be a win. You look at Tennessee, that should be a win, you would think, at home. But you look and you think, I know we don't know a lot about Will Levis, but what did Will Levis do in his first game? Threw for over 300 yards and 4 touchdown passes.
Went crazy.
Okay. He has a better offensive mind now as a head coach. Brian Callahan was the same guy that was in place helping develop Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Callahan comes from a coaching family. And oh, by the way, his dad is an offensive line coach, one of the best coaches in all the NFL, schematically in terms of developing things and on that. But wherever Bill Callahan, the dad, wherever he's gone, the offensive line's always been better. They got Cushenberry as a center. We didn't do that. They got Cushenberry as a center, okay? And they drafted Skoranek last year and put him at guard, which he's with his short arms, more suited for guard. But and then they drafted J.C. Latham this year. So and then they had the holdovers that they had. So the offensive line is pretty set. Hopkins, I know he may not play, but damn, dude, they still got Calvin Ridley.
Yep,
They brought in Tyler Boyd. Right, and they brought in Tyler Boyd, who knows the system that Callahan was coaching at Cincinnati because he came from over there. And then you bring in a more explosive offense. People thought like, okay, Henry's gone, and so is Vrabel. Who are the Titans? Well, that's the thing. We don't know yet, but we're going to find out, and we'll be the first team finding out. That works a little bit to our disadvantage. We don't know who they are offensively just yet, but they're going to be a quicker, faster, quick strike offense now. And Will Levis, whether he scares you or not, look. I watch the SEC all the time. Not a big fan of his at Kentucky because he did the thing that we talked about Caleb. He tried to be Superman all the damn time. He's like a poor man's version of Josh Allen, out there trying to run through people, make the big plays, hold on to make the big plays, try to force fit stuff. And it didn't work because he had to carry Kentucky. He ain't got to do that now. If the coaching staff can coach him like they need to coach him with all the talent around him, you got speed guys at running back now who can run and catch the ball. You got Pollard and you got Spears. Yeah. And we're not even talking about the tight end, who's probably one of the most underrated up-and-coming tight ends in the league. Any tight end under the age of 24, or under the age 25, he's one of those dudes. They're going to be a problem, man. Look, the AFC North, best division in football. That's why Hard Knocks is focusing on them during the season. The Bears division, I think, is the second best division overall. But the third most competitive division is probably going to be the AFC South. Pay attention. Jacksonville has a lot to say. A super talented team. They're going to try and make a comeback. They were a team that went to the playoffs and were this close to beating the Chiefs. So they're going to try and recapture that. Tennessee, we just talked about. The Colts, 9-8 last year. Hello, with Gardner Minshew. They got a more dangerous quarterback. And Anthony Richardson was doing some stuff till he got knocked himself out of the season. And now he's had time to prepare. And then their backup, I forget who their backup is. They got a solid backup. So even if he gets knocked out, they'll still be able to compete. And then you look at Houston, ain't got to say nothing about them. Dude, we play that division this year. Every game ain't going to be easy as you think it is. I'm just saying, hold your horses on. It's an easy-ass schedule. That's all I'm saying. Hey, every schedule, everything's a little different. We don't know until we get into it, NFL, all that stuff. But go in with the mindset you can win every game, but realize every game ain't a gimme. That's all I'm saying.
Nobody gonna lay down for us. We're gonna have to go and win those games, and we're gonna have to be prepared, like you said. Coaching gonna have to be up to par, and this offense gonna have to gel in. The major concern with the offense is, like you said, the offensive line. Is that gonna slow the development of Caleb Williams, like you said, especially the pressure from coming up the middle. It's what scares me the most. That's what hurt Justin Fields. The pressure coming from up the middle immediately. That's why he wasn't successful. You can't step up. If you can't step up into the pocket to make a throw, then you're throwing off your back foot and all that stuff. And that's when bad things happen. So I understand exactly what you're saying, Glenn. But you're scaring the viewers. You got people in there that's like, man, Glenn, think we going 2-12, 2-15.
I don't think that. It ain't an easy ass schedule, and I want solutions, and I'm letting you know these are the issues that we're gonna be facing. So go in with skepticism, but go in with optimistically. I should say go in with skepticism, but go in with the determination that you can survive and thrive in a situation. But don't go in thinking that this shit is easy as peasy, because that's when you get your head handed to you.
Right.
You're right. It's not going to be easy, but we also have to remember too. We ended 7-10 last year.
Last year's last year, man.
No. I understand last year completely. I get that part, but let's at least take a look at it. We ended up 7-10 last year with the roster we had, right?
Should have been 10-7. But that's my point.
Should have, could have, would have, right?
Well, I mean, we had 3 games that we should have won that we had 90% chance of winning in the fourth quarter, so we should have sealed the deal. But that's my point. It's like we don't know how that's all going to translate. And guess what, everybody? This is the third year in a row where we have a completely new offensive approach to our team. Third year in a row. There's no consistency there. It takes time to develop. I think we can get there. I'm just saying, don't hold up on the schedule. Just listen. I hate to say it, take it one game at a time, but I start following the coach speak. Take it one game at a time. Let's worry about getting healthy. Let's worry about having a successful preseason to where roles are defined and we know what the players, where the players are playing and what they can do and how they can go about executing it. And then approach that Tennessee game like it's a Super Bowl. Like you don't go in with any attitude like we at home, so we should win. Tennessee ain't done nothing. We should. No, we're both starting at 0. And Tennessee is coming in looking at us saying, oh, this is like, we go around saying it's easy win. How many teams you think look at us and say, oh, okay, that's a win? That shit works both ways, man. That shit works both ways. We here in Chicago, we love our shit. We really do. We like, oh man, dude, we got this. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. You don't think the other people from the other cities looking at us saying, oh, that's an easy ass win? So let's just go.
Exactly. That's why you got to put it out in the universe, right?
Yeah, you got to play.
You got to be there. You got to, like you said, take it every game. Every game, that game is the only game in the world that matters. Everything else.
And look, we gonna put it out there. We putting the pressure. Hey, like DMX said, the heat is on. like we putting the pressure on them at the end of the day, because we gonna be there. Matter of fact, September. That's game day, right? September 8th.
Yep,
I believe so. Yeah.
Hey, look, we're gonna hit y'all hard with a good old tailgate party, and that's gonna be the theme of the year. So, look, everybody in the chat, if you come to the game, we got a tailgate party. We're gonna have a bunch of former Bears there. We're gonna have some Chicago personality like Glynn in the building, and I promise y'all, he's gonna be more positive than he is right now. At the end of the day, we're gonna have a good time because we're all like we're just analyzing this thing for best case, worst case. And we all about, look, at the end of the day, as much time and energy as we're putting into this, we're going to have fun with it too. So we want to, 2024-25, hard not, this is going to be a year to remember. This is going to be an experience to remember. So, look, get ready, guys. Strap up. Share it with your family and friends. Look, we want to build something that's going to be insurmountable along with the team and sustain this thing week to week, month to month, year to year. So, I'm staying with my prediction of 12-5, 13-4. So, at the end of the day, I'm staying positive. Hopefully the line stays intact. Because if the line stays intact, I'll tell you right now, the way Shane Waldron called it, 11 personnel and 12 personnel, oh, man, it's going to be nasty. If them boys hold them blocks and the ball come out, and I'm not worried about the running game because it don't matter who the OC is for us. The running game has always excelled in Chicago year in, year out. But if the passing game, and I know Justin kind of skewed the numbers the last couple. Well, I know for sure we had 3,000 yard rushing in 22. Yeah, he had 1,100. So he kind of skewed them numbers. But if the passing game complements that running game, it's going to be some slow singing and flower bringing, guys. I'm telling you. But it all depends on the line, though.
Like, we can be optimistic, and even if the offensive line isn't a great offensive line, because Shane Waldron didn't have a great offensive line in Seattle, when he just got creative, where he used three tight end formations. Man, I'm seeing formations where he put 2 tight ends in the backfield with the quarterback, along with a running back. So he can be creative in creating the protection for the quarterback. And the other thing that makes me optimistic is the players that we have and the culture that we have on our team. Like, we have guys who want to compete to be great. They want to be good. So, the coaching is on the coaching. Like Glynn said, nobody's going to lay down for us this year. And I didn't expect that shit, but we have to be ready. And the coaches have to have the team ready. We cannot have another Packer game 1 where we facing our division rival and we come out flat. We can't have that shit. Like he said, if we come out flat against Tennessee, they have the ability to beat us. They're a well-coached team. They have a great offensive line where they've invested into. They have running backs, and they're well-coached. So that's what it's going to boil down to. We're going to have to be the same, and we're going to have to compete. Nobody's going to lay down for us, but I feel like we got those guys, all right, at the key positions. Wide receivers, the defense, like he said, is hype. So I'm gonna remain optimistic about it, but I'm gonna be real, like Glenn said, though. Nobody gonna lay down for us. We're gonna have to come out. We're gonna have to take these games.
Mm-hmm. And that's the point, Samo. Right? When I brought up 7-10 last year, it was not to say that that's just the benchmark for this year for me. Right? You have to get more than 7 wins. Yeah. I'm thinking more maybe 9-8. That might be something fairly reasonable. As a nice thing. If you get 12-5, like Will says, I'd be ecstatic. But in reality, that's not going to happen. Let's be real. Mm-hmm. No team's going to lie down for us, and every team can beat every team, minus maybe the Panthers.
Yeah,
I think they're terrible. I don't know.
Are they on the schedule this year? They're not on the schedule, right?
Hey, with the number 33 pick in the 2024 with our 25 round, the Bears, man, they look atrocious, man.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm looking at too. I'm not just looking at the play. I'm looking at, man, we got a very dynamic and seasoned coaching staff on offense too. So I'm looking at that as well. Like, and I think Semo gonna get the line ready. I really do. And let's be honest, guys. That's why I think it's gonna be another move made in the next 7 to 10 days. And it might be on offense, it might be on defense, but it might be 2 moves, to be honest, because it just depends on the availability and accessibility of Nate. I think Tevin's good, Darnell's good, but as far as like Nate Davis, it's going to depend on his assist. I think he might end up being the highest paid swing guard in the NFL. I just truly do, because of his inability to be accessible. Because like I said, you can't make the club from the tub. It's not fair to the ones that's going out there day in, day out, consistently grinding, putting in the work, building that continuity, with the quarterback, with the other 4 linemen. Like, I think this might end up being another Chase Claypool situation, but I think he'll get some playing time because, as we all know, I love Tevin. I'm gonna say Tevin gonna play a full 17 this year. That's what I'm. That like Bubba Doug. Hell no. Hey, we might have created a hell no.
Did I laugh out loud? I'm sorry.
That's the bet we all willing to take, right? We all gonna take that bet. Like he's not gonna.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like plus 3,500 on bet.com or whatever.
No, daily picks. They got the daily pick one now.
Yeah, like I said, the reason I was getting on 7-10, I just want to finish this up real quick, and then we can get out of here because I know we've been here almost 2 hours. Is that 7-10 is the last data point I can look at, right, to get a semi idea of what I'm going into this year. I can't predict the future, so I can't give you what I know is going to happen, right?
Bullshit, so Walt. You predict the future, man. You predict the future, damn it.
So I have to go back and look at the last season because that's the closest thing I'm going to get. So we have our coaching staff as Matt Eberflus, Lou Getsy, and what was Alan Williams. Lou Getsy and Alan Williams are gone. Right? They were the 2 major problems of this whole team because it starts up here and trickles down to everyone else. So, and like Derek said, the best acquisition of the whole year was the coaching staff. It was Shane Waldron. He's a very experienced guy. Same thing with Eric Washington, another experienced guy who's going to go in there and impart their knowledge on this team. Now we just got to wait and see how it translates. And to everyone's concern about the offensive line, let's not forget the offensive line woes of the Cleveland Browns as well as the Houston Texans last year. Both teams made the playoffs.
Because of their defenses.
Well, the depth of the overall team. But good points, Will. I mean, Walt, good points. Good points indeed. And definitely, you know, it takes the three of you guys to make the sour puss that's me not have our fans be so scared about the future of the Chicago Bears.
Come on, Glenn. You're going to scare them away from the tailgate party now. You know,
Everybody.
that's the first game of the year.
No, Will, you're looking at the wrong way, bro. That's the tailgate party, so everyone can tell me to my face, Glenn, shut the hell up. You don't know what you're talking about. You tell me to my face. You know, I'm gonna be like a certain person who's running for a certain. Hey, just tell it to my face. You know, I ain't got no problem with it. It's all good, man. I'm here for all the smoke, baby. I'm here for it all.
Let's go. Well,
Whether you're going to the game or you're not going to the game, either. Will said if you're going to the game, if you ain't going to the game, you're still invited to the tailgate.
No doubt.
No doubt. Harrison and Wallbox, baby. We getting it in. Let's go. I hope to see all y'all there. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, we'll get you guys some more information really soon on that. And you know what? I'm looking forward to having this conversation again, maybe 8 weeks down the line when we're a little more into the season, and we'll discuss things there.
For sure.
Absolutely. Well, hey, as always, another great show. So, hey, man, it was a good time. I hope everybody in the chat had a good time. Hey, game tomorrow. We're playing in Buffalo. We want to know, leave in the chat before y'all leave what y'all going to be looking for at tomorrow's game. I know a lot of y'all talking about y'all want to see Mitchell Trubisky versus Tyson Bagent. So at the end of the day, if that's what you're looking for, look, we're gonna be right along there with you because man, like, hey, football is back and now it's in full effect. So now we got this regular week to week battle rhythm that we can really just delve off into it.
All right, fellas.
All right, hey, so another good show. Claws up, baby. Let's go.
Claws up, squad up, bear down. Salute
All right.
everybody in the chat who rocked with us today.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
All right, now.